saved my life in Cabo. We were caught in an undertow, and a few weeks later at precisely 4:48 a.m. on January 30th, 2026, a frantic emergency call shattered the quiet calm of a private residence in Los Angeles. The stillness of the pre-dawn hours, a time when the world seemed to be holding its breath, was interrupted by the harsh wail of sirens, cutting through the silence like a blade. In that moment, there were no bright studio lights, no thunderous applause, no glamorous red carpets or extravagant wigs from the wardrobe of Moira Rose, just a sense of surreal disquiet that hung in the air. Just days before, Catherine O'Hara seemed invincible. The vibrant force of nature who had made us laugh, cry, and laugh again seemed eternal, a fixture in the entertainment world that felt too solid to ever be shaken. But now, in a single moment, she was gone. Her breath faded into nothingness, leaving behind a gaping void where her humor, warmth, and brilliance had once been. Catherine, the woman who had taught the world to laugh through its tears, had taken her final bow. The official statements, as they always are in moments like these, were heartbreakingly vague. A brief illness, they said, that's all. A brief illness had taken her from us far too soon. In those cold, cryptic words, we were left grasping for more details, more understanding, more time with her. But how does someone who embodied so much vitality, someone who had given so much of herself to us, simply vanish? How could someone who had been the epitome of life and energy disappear without warning? Welcome to Shadows of Stardom, where we look not only at the public stories that are told, but at the silent battles fought behind the scenes, the stories we never see. Today, we're not just recounting a list of movies or awards. We are honoring Catherine O'Hara, a beautiful soul who gave us everything while keeping her deepest struggles hidden from the world. To the public, Catherine O'Hara was the unforgettable, frantic mother from Home Alone, the eccentric diva with an unforgettable wardrobe in Schitt's Creek. But there was so much more to her than the roles we adored. Behind the laughter, the public face, and the accolades was another reality. A woman who lived in the shadow of constant pain, battling against time and her own body in a world that expected her to be invincible. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is not just built on her iconic roles or the characters she made unforgettable. It is anchored in the quiet strength and grace she exuded, even in the face of her personal struggles. The world came to know her for her remarkable comedic timing, her impeccable ability to find humor in even the most dire situations. But beneath that was a woman who carried with her an immense weight, the weight of constant battles with her health, of the sacrifices she made to keep the world laughing, and of the enormous pressure of living up to the expectation of eternal brilliance. Her story was one of contrasts, a woman who could make the world laugh until it cried, but who herself, behind closed doors, fought battles that would have broken many. And perhaps that was her greatest strength, her ability to bear so much with such poise, to make it all look effortless while hiding the toll it took on her body and soul. She was a woman who made millions of people feel seen, heard, and loved, yet kept her own truth locked away, a truth that only those closest to her would ever know. As we reflect on Catherine O'Hara's life, we must look beyond the roles that defined her career. We must understand the woman behind the wigs, the accents, and the characters who made us laugh and cry. Her ability to transform, to disappear into her roles, was not just a testament to her talent. It was a reflection of a woman who, at her core, understood the power of vulnerability and the strength it took to show up day after day for the world. Yet, in the very same way she could transform into a character, Catherine had also transformed herself in ways few people could ever imagine. Her silence, her ability to keep her struggles hidden, was part of her strength, but it is only in the wake of her passing that we truly understand the depths of that silence, the weight of the battles she fought alone, the quiet pain she endured, and the immense grace with which she carried it all. Catherine O'Hara may have left this world too soon, but she left behind a legacy that will continue to resonate for generations. And in the echoes of her laughter, her characters, and the indelible mark she left on the world, we find a reminder of the power of comedy, the importance of vulnerability, and the profound impact one person can have on the lives of so many. Catherine O'Hara's final bow was not just the end of an era, it was a poignant reminder that the greatest heroes often fight their hardest battles in silence, behind the closed doors of their private lives. We may never know all of the details, but we do know this. Catherine gave us everything, and for that we will be forever grateful. Catherine O'Hara was born different, quite literally. She lived with a rare condition called situs inversus, where her heart beat not on the left side of her chest as most of ours do, but on the right. A mirror image of human anatomy, Catherine's body was built differently from the very beginning. Perhaps that's why she viewed the world through a lens that was uniquely her own. She saw things others didn't, felt things that remained invisible to many. She was an artist in the truest sense, a woman who shaped her world through humor and grace, even as her body quietly rebelled against her. Her body, which defied the usual blueprint of human anatomy, symbolized how Catherine approached life itself, breaking the mold, defying convention, and embracing what made her different. Where others might have seen these differences as a disadvantage, Catherine transformed them into strengths. Her experiences, her pain, her battles, they became part of the fabric of her genius. She was a woman who understood how to turn vulnerability into power, how to wield her unique perspective as a weapon in an industry that often demanded conformity. Catherine knew that the things that made her different were the very things that made her extraordinary, but what we didn't see was the silent toll these differences had on her. The pain that simmered beneath her laughter, the struggles she chose to keep to herself, and the resilience that allowed her to keep performing despite everything she was silently facing. But beneath the laughter, beneath the quirks of her unique biology, was a fierce determination to protect her privacy, a vow of silence when it came to her health that she kept until the very end. For years, Catherine shielded us from the harsh truths of her struggles. She hid her pain, her battles, her fears from the public eye, as if her own suffering was something to be kept in the shadows. There was a profound irony in this. Catherine, who spent her life creating characters that invited us to see the deepest parts of ourselves, kept so much of her own truth hidden. She was in many ways the ultimate performer, not just in her roles, but in the way she lived her life. Her greatest performance perhaps was the one she never let us see, the struggle to balance the weight of public adoration with the quiet weight of personal loss and suffering. But those final 72 hours, those last moments of her life, revealed a side of her we had never seen, a story not of scandal but of heartbreakingly quiet bravery. A bravery that Catherine carried with her until the very end, refusing to let the world see her falter. She was the kind of person who, no matter the storm inside, would put on a smile and let the world believe she was invincible, even when her body was quietly falling apart. Her final act was not to seek pity or attention, but to protect the dignity she had carried her entire life. She shielded the world from the final battle she was fighting, just as she had shielded us from the many others before. Catherine gave us her laughter and brilliance until she could give no more. To truly understand the silence she left behind, we must first appreciate the symphony of laughter she conducted for nearly 50 years. Catherine O'Hara didn't just enter the entertainment industry, she infiltrated it. She didn't just perform, she transformed. Her genius was impossible to ignore. Born into a boisterous Catholic family in Toronto, humor was not just a hobby for Catherine, it was a survival mechanism. She learned early on that if you weren't funny in a household with 6 siblings, you weren't heard. If you wanted to be noticed, you had to stand out. Humor became her weapon, her way of carving out space for herself in a world where voices often got lost. It wasn't just about making people laugh, it was about making them listen. Catherine had something to say, and humor was the bridge she built to ensure people heard her. Her humor led her to the improv crucible of Second City in the 1970s, a place where legends were born and only the bravest survived. It was a high-pressure, all-male environment where Catherine stood shoulder to shoulder with the likes of John Candy and Eugene Levy. It was gritty, cutthroat, and relentless, a world that demanded every performer push their limits and redefine what was possible. And Catherine didn't just participate, she transformed. She became a shapeshifter, a chameleon who could slip into a character so completely that she almost seemed to disappear into them. She had a rare gift, one that allowed her to merge with her roles to the point that, for audiences, the line between Catherine O'Hara and her characters became almost indistinguishable. Her ability to immerse herself into any character was part of her genius, and it was a testament to her fierce dedication to her craft. Catherine's artistry wasn't just about making people laugh, it was out tapping into the humanity of every character she portrayed, no matter how absurd or eccentric. In a world that often tried to limit her to one-dimensional roles, she broke free and showed us the depth of her talent, a chameleon who could slip into a role so seamlessly, so naturally that the audience forgot they were watching an actor at all. They saw only the character, the person she had become for that moment. She became the woman with an iconic scream in Home Alone, the eccentric Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek, and so many other roles that left us mesmerized. But it was in those quiet moments between the performances, behind the laughter and applause, where Catherine truly shone. While the world celebrated her ability to disappear into her roles, she was quietly battling against the forces that threatened to unravel her, forces within her body that no amount of humor could hide, and forces within the industry that demanded she always be at her best, always at the top of her game. And she was a master at making it all seem effortless. Yet we never saw the true toll it took. We never saw the cracks in her armor because Catherine O'Hara made sure that when she performed, she was more than just an actress. She was a force that had given so much to the world, and one that left an imprint that will never fade. Her ability to make us laugh through the hardest times was a gift, one that demanded everything from her. She fought not just for her place in the entertainment world, but for the right to live as a woman who was more than her roles, more than her characters. Catherine's battle wasn't just with her health or the industry that sought to limit her, but with the expectations placed upon her to be everything at once. She was asked to be funny, to be strong, to be perfect. And she was all of those things, but it came at a cost, one that was never truly seen by the public eye, until now. As we reflect on Catherine O'Hara's life, we realize that the world may have celebrated her public persona, but we never truly understood the cost of that brilliance. Catherine O'Hara wasn't just a performer, she was a survivor, someone who navigated life with strength, humor, and grace, all while carrying the weight of unseen battles. She was an icon, yes, but she was also a woman, deeply human, deeply complex, and at times, deeply fragile. And perhaps that is why her legacy is so enduring, because in the midst of the humor, the laughter, and the glamour, she was real, she was human, and that is what makes her unforgettable. Then came the role that would cement her place in the hearts of millions, Home Alone. That moment when she screamed Kevin's name in the airport terminal wasn't just a line, it was a moment in cinematic history. Catherine O'Hara didn't just play a frantic, loving mother, she became the symbol of the imperfect, fiercely protective parent that so many people could relate to. That scream became a hallmark of Christmas for generations. It was a moment so iconic that it became as much a part of the holiday season as the tree, the lights, and the presents. Every year, as families sat down to watch Home Alone, they didn't just see a woman yelling in a chaotic airport. They saw a mother who, in her own way, embodied the universal struggle of parenthood, trying, failing, loving unconditionally, and fighting against all odds. That one simple line became an emblem of the holiday season, forever etched in the memories of millions who felt her anguish and joy. But fame of that magnitude is a heavy cloak to wear. Catherine's career reached heights that only a few could ever dream of, but with that success came an enormous weight. The world saw the flawless brilliance of Delia Dietz in Beetlejuice, the warmth and humor of Kate Mallister in Home Alone, but behind those roles was a perfectionist who struggled with nerves and deep-seated humility. Catherine agonized over every performance, obsessing over every detail, trying to perfect every scene as if it were her last. Comedy was not a playground for her, it was a high-stakes science. She didn't just perform, she painstakingly constructed emotional landscapes, ensuring that every syllable, every pause, every blink of her eye carried weight, meaning, and authenticity. Every performance was a work of art, an emotional experience she demanded be as truthful as possible. She believed in the power of laughter, but she also understood that true comedy required something deeper: vulnerability, precision, and heart. Catherine's relentless pursuit of perfection reached its zenith with Schitt's Creek. As Moira Rose, she created a character that became an instant cultural phenomenon, an unplaceable accent, a towering wall of wigs, and an unwavering commitment to her eccentricity. Moira Rose wasn't just a character, she was a modern icon. She transcended the show, becoming a symbol of defiance, individuality, and the refusal to apologize for being unique. Catherine, in her 60s, was at the peak of her powers. She had spent decades honing her craft, and now in the later chapters of her career, she was delivering one of the most brilliant and unexpected performances of her life. In Moira, Catherine displayed an unflinching commitment to creating someone who was both utterly ridiculous and deeply, poignantly human. Moira's love for her family, her misplaced confidence, her incessant need for approval, they were all facets of a character that made us laugh but also made us understand. Catherine had created something rare, a character who made us both laugh and reflect, who was larger than life but in the most human way, completely relatable. And yet, as the world marveled at this unexpected renaissance, Catherine's body was quietly growing tired. The physical demands of her career, the relentless pursuit of excellence, and the toll of aging were catching up with her. She seemed to outrun time for so many years, every new role, every new challenge, only solidifying her place as one of the greats. But even the most invincible of careers must eventually confront the realities of the body. While the world was dazzled by her renaissance, Catherine, behind closed doors, was fighting the invisible battle that no one could see. Time, it seemed, was no longer an ally. By the time Schitt's Creek ended, Catherine was at the peak of her career, winning awards, receiving standing ovations, and proving that talent doesn't fade with age, it ripens. She was in the prime of her craft, celebrated not just for her performances, but for the humanity and complexity she brought to each role. But even as the applause rang out, Catherine was facing a far more difficult and private struggle. The industry that had once adored her was now starting to forget her human side. While the world cheered her triumphs, she was quietly dealing with battles that went unnoticed, unseen by all except those closest to her. The public loved Moira Rose and saw Catherine as a beacon of strength and creativity, but behind the scenes, she was battling the physical and emotional tolls of years spent giving everything to her craft. Behind the curtain, Catherine was fighting battles that no one knew about. While the world laughed and cheered, she was quietly managing the exhaustion of her body, the mental strain of maintaining an image, and the pressure of staying relevant in an industry that often consumes its stars. For years, Catherine had been a master at hiding her weariness, pushing through pain and fatigue to deliver performances that seemed effortless. She made it all look easy, but in reality, it was anything but. Each role, each project took something from her, emotionally, physically, and mentally. She carried the weight of an entire career on her shoulders, And while she was giving the world her brilliance, she was quietly sacrificing pieces of herself to do so. Her body, once so full of energy, was now betraying her. The long hours, the physical toll of performing, the emotional strain of living up to expectations, it was all catching up. And in the quiet moments when the cameras were off, when the applause had faded, Catherine faced the reality of her own limitations. Yet she never let us see it. She never let the cracks show. She maintained the facade of invincibility, of perfection, even as the exhaustion began to chip away at her. Catherine had always been a woman who fought in silence, against time, against expectations, and against her own body. And it was this fight, the one we couldn't see, that made her all the more remarkable. Even as the world celebrated her, Catherine remained grounded in her humanity. She never let the industry define her or dictate her worth. She defined herself on her own terms with an authenticity that made her stand out in an industry often dominated by shallow facades. She was real in a way that few were. She didn't just create characters, she lived them. And that authenticity, that commitment to being true to herself, became the foundation of her legacy. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is not just in the characters she played or the awards she won. It's in the way she navigated her life, the way she balanced the joy she brought to others with the sacrifices she made in private. She was more than just a comedic genius. She was a woman who gave everything, who built a career on vulnerability and strength, and who taught us all that there is more to every story than meets the eye. In the end, Catherine was not just a star. She was a symbol of resilience, of grace, and of the quiet power of living life on your own terms. As her final years passed, Catherine found herself in a strange paradox. She had achieved the fame and recognition she had always deserved, but at the same time her body was betraying her. The constant demands of her career, the physical toll of acting, and the mental strain of staying in character had gradually taken their toll. She had been a tireless perfectionist, relentlessly pushing herself to meet the high expectations set by her legendary status. She was a woman who had spent decades building a career defined by impeccable comedic timing and transformational performances, a woman who worked harder than most, often at the cost of her own well-being. But now, as the world looked to her for more, Catherine began retreating into the shadows of her own life, quietly stepping back from the spotlight. The quiet absences, the unexplained delays in taking on new roles, the declining invitations to glamorous events, each of these was a subtle sign of the inner battle she was fighting in silence. Those who had worked with her, those who knew her best, could sense a shift. Her once boundless energy now felt like it was slipping away, but she refused to let anyone see it. The woman who had given so much to the world through her vibrant characters was now privately wrestling with the inevitable passage of time, a force she could no longer outrun. And then on January 30th, 2026, the silence was finally broken, not by a public confrontation, not by any grandiose statement or reveal, but by a brief, devastating announcement. Catherine O'Hara had passed away following a brief illness. The phrase "brief illness" hung in the air like a cryptic riddle, an explanation that revealed everything and nothing at all. In those simple yet haunting words, the world was forced to come to terms with the fact that Catherine O'Hara, the woman who had made us laugh, who had brought joy to countless hearts with her performances, was no longer with us. The news spread like wildfire across the globe, and in that instant the world felt emptier, quieter, less vibrant. But as we all collectively processed the loss, we realized something deeply profound. Catherine's passing wasn't just the death of a famous actress. It wasn't just the loss of the woman behind Home Alone, Beetlejuice, or Schitt's Creek. Catherine O'Hara had been more than just an actress. She had been a presence in our lives, like a distant, beloved relative who always made us smile, a familiar face that, through decades of iconic roles, had become part of the fabric of our cultural memories. Catherine had been with us during holidays, through family movie nights, and in the darkest moments when laughter felt like the only thing that could ease our pain. We realized that her absence was not merely the loss of an entertainer, it was the loss of a piece of ourselves, a reminder that even those who make us laugh the most have their own struggles, their own silences. In the aftermath of her passing, Macaulay Culkin, her on-screen son in Home Alone, broke his silence. He wrote a poignant tribute that read, "I thought we had time." That simple sentence, written with such raw emotion, carried the weight of so much unspoken love, so many years of shared history between them. In that moment, the world realized that Catherine had not just been an actress to Macaulay. They had lost a mentor, a second mother, someone who had helped shape not just his career but his life. It was a recognition that many of us too had lost someone who had played an essential part in our lives through her work. We had all grown up with Catherine, whether we realized it or not. As the world mourned her loss, we began to understand that the silence Catherine left behind was not an absence. It was, in fact, a presence, an undeniable heavy silence that echoed through the hearts of all who had been touched by her work. Her silence, her privacy, and her quiet strength had shaped every performance, every laugh, every line she delivered. And in that silence, we were forced to confront a deeper truth. While Catherine O'Hara had given us her all, she had kept so much of herself hidden. She had spent decades perfecting the art of performance, of making us laugh and feel, but she had never once asked us to understand the personal toll it took on her. We had taken her for granted. We assumed that Catherine, the comedic genius, would always be there, delivering lines that would make us laugh until we cried. We had come to believe that she was invincible, that the woman who had brought Moira Rose to life and made her into a cultural icon could never be outdone by time. We thought she was unstoppable, that her spirit would endure forever. But life, unlike a movie script, doesn't always guarantee a happy ending, and it doesn't always allow for a neatly wrapped third act. Catherine O'Hara's passing was a brutal reminder that even the most indomitable spirits have their limits. Now Catherine O'Hara is no longer with us. The world is a little quieter, a little less joyful without her in it. The woman who had spent decades making us laugh, comforting us with her warmth, and making us feel seen through her characters is gone. And yet Catherine's laughter, her spirit, and her humanity will live on forever. They will echo through the walls of cinema history, in the moments we revisit, in the lines we quote, and in the roles that will never be forgotten. Her presence may have left the stage, but her influence remains. Good night, Moira. Good night, Kate. Good night, Catherine. You finally have the rest you so richly deserve. The world will never be the same without you, but your legacy will live on in every laugh, in every tear, and in every memory you've left behind.